When both you and the narcissist go silent, the world does not suddenly become peaceful. It does the opposite. It explodes internally because in that exact moment, someone finally loses control and it is not you. Most people assume that shared silence means the story has ended, that everything has burned out and there is nothing left. But the reality is much more disturbing and far more revealing. This is the point where the narcissist enters their true psychological unraveling. And at the same time, this is where your real healing quietly begins. Stay with this, because what comes next is the part almost no one warns you about. If any of this feels uncomfortably familiar, that is not an accident. You are standing at the edge of a major shift. Understanding what is happening here is how you finally break the cycle for good. So let's go deeper into what actually unfolds. When both you and the narcissist stop reaching out, the very first thing that happens on their side is something like a mental reset. It is quiet, internal, and deeply psychological. Most people never see it because it happens in silence, long before the narcissist makes any obvious move. When you go quiet, you experience it as an emotional change. It feels like a boundary, a withdrawal, or a necessary step toward protecting yourself. But the narcissist does not experience your silence in that way at all. They do not see it as self-respect or healing. They treat it like information. Your lack of response becomes data to analyze, not a signal to respect. They start asking themselves questions, but not the kind of questions healthy people ask. They are not wondering how they hurt you or what they could have done differently. Instead, they are scanning for reasons that threaten their control. Did you get distracted by something new? Are you trying to punish them? Did someone else enter your life? Are you testing their reaction? They are looking for leverage, not understanding. Your silence becomes a problem they need to solve because uncertainty makes them unstable. They cannot sit comfortably in not knowing. During this stage, they may say nothing at all. Their silence is not peace and it is not maturity. It is strategy. They may quietly watch your online presence, check who interacts with you, or keep tabs through mutual connections. They are observing, collecting clues, waiting to see if you break first. Narcissists deeply believe that people they once controlled will always come back. So they do not see your silence as an ending. They see it as a pause, a delay, temporary resistance. This is why they often do not panic right away. They expect you to return to the familiar pattern, just like before. They are counting on your guilt, your discomfort with tension, your desire to fix things and restore calm. They assume you will eventually reach out, explain yourself, or soften the silence. When that does not happen, their internal recalibration grows more intense. They begin to sense that something is different this time. They start to feel their influence weakening, and that is when the situation becomes threatening to them. Silence in their world is never neutral. It is either a chance to regain dominance or a danger to their ego. The longer you remain quiet, the more unstable they feel because your silence shakes the power structure they relied on. When both sides are silent, the emotional experience could not be more different for you than it is for them. And this contrast reveals a hard truth. You feel the loss. They feel the inconvenience. When you stop contacting them, you are usually carrying the full emotional weight of everything that happened. You are sorting through the confusion, the broken trust, the emotional fatigue, and the unanswered questions. You may feel grief, anxiety, sadness, or even guilt. You are mourning not just the relationship, but the version of yourself that stayed too long and tolerated too much. Your silence comes from emotional overload. You reached a point where your nervous system could no longer handle the chaos. You are trying to regain your sense of self, your peace, and your clarity. That inner process is heavy. It affects how you sleep, how you think, how you remember the past, and how you see yourself. Your body and mind are trying to recover. The narcissist, on the other hand, does not experience silence with emotional depth. They do not sit with the loss the way you do. They do not reflect on what went wrong or how their behavior affected you. They do not ask themselves what needs to change. Their reaction is much more shallow and self-focused. Your silence disrupts their routine, not their heart. They were used to having access to your attention, your reactions, your explanations, your care, even your anger. All of it fed their sense of importance and control. When you go silent, that flow of validation suddenly stops. This does not emotionally shatter them, it annoys them, it frustrates them. They experience it like losing access to something they relied on. It feels like a service interruption. They are not thinking about losing someone meaningful. They are thinking about why you are not responding. Your pain and their frustration exist in completely separate psychological worlds. You are grieving. They are calculating. You are healing. They are assessing their access. You feel emptiness. They feel interruption. As time goes on, this difference becomes even clearer. You slowly start to see how much emotional weight you were carrying and how much of yourself you had to silence just to keep things calm. You begin to understand how exhausting it was to always explain, reassure, and accommodate. Meanwhile, they start to notice that something that used to work effortlessly no longer works at all. Your emotional availability is gone. The imbalance becomes impossible to ignore. Your silence pushes you deeper into self-awareness and recovery, while it pushes them into irritation and entitlement. You are dealing with pain that leads to growth. They are dealing with discomfort tied only to losing compliance. When both sides are silent, the narcissist does not experience that quiet as a shared pause or a healthy step back. They experience it as a direct attack on their ego. Silence from someone they once controlled feels like rebellion. Narcissists view relationships through power, not mutual respect. So when you stop responding, stop chasing, and stop supplying attention, it disrupts the hierarchy they believe they created. Even if your intention was simply to protect yourself, they interpret it as defiance. In their mind, silence is never harmless. It is disrespect. It is resistance. It is proof that their influence may be fading. This is why silence affects them more deeply than any argument ever could. Arguments keep them relevant. Emotional reactions keep them central in your world. Even your anger reassures them that they still matter. Silence removes them from the spotlight, and that loss of center stage threatens the fragile story they tell themselves about who they are. Your silence forces them to face a possibility they cannot tolerate, that they are not as powerful, necessary, or irreplaceable as they believed. Narcissists struggle deeply with ambiguity, and your lack of communication creates a space they cannot control or interpret. Instead of seeing your silence as a boundary, they see it as a challenge. Their internal dialogue twists. They may label you as cruel, ungrateful, or manipulative. They may convince themselves you are playing games or trying to provoke them. Their ego tells them that your silence must be intentional and strategic, not the result of exhaustion or self-protection. Some narcissists turn it into a competition, a test of who will break first. Others frame themselves as the victim, telling themselves you abandoned them. Even after months or years of mistreatment toward you, they rewrite the meaning of your silence to protect their image, not to understand your pain. As this tension builds, their sense of control starts to crack. Your silence becomes a mirror that reflects their insecurity back at them. Instead of sitting with that discomfort, they create stories that restore their sense of superiority. They may assume you will come back eventually because you always did before, or they may begin thinking of ways to emotionally punish you for stepping out of line. In their internal world, silence is dangerous because it suggests something they cannot accept. You may no longer be under their influence. When both of you stop contacting each other, something very different unfolds inside the narcissist than inside you. For you, the silence can slowly become space. Space to breathe, space to think clearly, space to recognize what you survived. But for the narcissist, your absence creates a psychological vacuum. That vacuum forces them to face the loss of control, something they spend their entire lives avoiding. They do not think in terms of shared distance or mutual boundaries. They see your disengagement as a crack in the system they built to support their identity. Narcissists do not have a stable inner sense of worth. Their self-esteem is built from the outside, held together by attention, reactions, and validation from others. You were part of that structure. Your emotional responses, your pattern of returning after conflict, your willingness to explain and forgive, all of that reinforced their sense of power. When you remove yourself, that structure weakens. And while you are slowly finding yourself again, they are scrambling to protect an identity that depends on control. This is why mutual silence is never actually mutual. You are stepping into clarity. They are stepping into instability. And that difference is exactly why your silence is so powerful, even when it feels painful. Their sense of superiority and control depends on constant engagement. When you withdraw, you break that cycle. That interruption forces them into a moment of psychological exposure. It confronts them with their reliance on your attention, something they are unwilling to admit even to themselves. They have constructed a story where they were the one in command, the one steering the course, the one making all the decisions. Your silence challenges that story. It signals that you may no longer be in the role they assign to you. This shakes the carefully curated identity they maintain. Without your reactions, they have nothing to push against, nothing to manipulate, nothing to use as proof of their dominance. This absence threatens them, not because they genuinely care about the relationship in a deep or emotionally mature way, but because it undermines the control they relied on to feel important. This is the moment when their inner world becomes unsettled. They might start replaying old conversations, looking for signs they overlooked. They may wonder if someone else has filled your place. They may begin scanning for ways to regain authority, even without making contact. Your silence grows louder for them than it does for you because they can't see what you're doing. That invisibility robs them of the illusion of predictability. Suddenly, they are outside your world, no longer at the center, and that loss of centrality is unbearable for them. Their mind shifts from arrogance to unease, from entitlement to suspicion, from certainty to instability. And all of this is triggered by something as simple as your absence. When both you and the narcissist enter silence, it may appear externally as though nothing is happening. Internally, however, the narcissist begins a predictable series of compensatory actions aimed at regaining their sense of control. One of the most frequent reactions is trying to fill the void your absence created through hoovering, baiting, or triangulation. These behaviors aren't random. They are psychological tools used when the narcissist feels their influence slipping. Hoovering occurs when they notice that your silence isn't temporary. Initially, they expect your return because that is what they trained you to do. When you don't come back, panic sets in. Hoovering is their attempt to pull you back, not out of emotional connection, but because losing you threatens their ego stability. They might send a gentle message, a nostalgic reminder, or a plea framed around a crisis. They may appear remorseful, reflective, or unusually attentive. They change their approach to whatever they believe will succeed because the goal isn't emotional reconnection, it's regaining control. If hoovering seems risky or fails, they shift to baiting. Baiting is intended to provoke an emotional reaction from you, whether positive or negative. Narcissists don't care which direction your emotions go. They care about being the cause. They may post something online to spark jealousy, send a sharp or dismissive message to make you angry, or create unnecessary drama that compels a response. Any reaction, even anger, restores their sense of significance. Silence removes their power. Baiting becomes a way to poke at the wound they created, hoping you react just enough to remind them of your accessibility. When those tactics don't work, they escalate to triangulation. Here they bring in someone else, an ex, a new partner, a friend, or family member, not for genuine connection, but to construct a narrative that puts them back in control. They may flaunt a new relationship, suggest that someone else values them more, or exaggerate your silence to make themselves appear like the victim. The aim of triangulation is to make you feel replaced, insecure, or unimportant, to lure you back into proving your value or reclaiming your place in their life. These actions are not signs of love, they are signs of dependence. The narcissist depends on external attention to maintain their sense of identity. When you stop supplying it, they scramble to patch the void. Hoovering, baiting, and triangulation are efforts to restore psychological dominance, not emotional connection. These reactions are born from fear, entitlement, and ego disruption, all triggered by your silence. When silence stretches on both sides, something profound unfolds that is often unexpected. While you may see the quiet as a step toward peace or closure, the narcissist experiences it as escalating anxiety. Your silence is interpreted not as calm, but as a loss of control. Their identity depends so heavily on the reactions of others, especially those they once drew into their orbit, that your lack of response triggers an internal alarm. Your quiet is not their peace, it is their panic. Narcissists rely on emotional stimulation from others to maintain the fragile structure of their self-esteem. They need attention, admiration, conflict, or drama, anything that keeps them at the center of someone else's emotional world. When you stop providing that energy, they feel their inner stability collapsing. They cannot regulate themselves without external input, and your silence removes that feedback. This sets off a psychological chain reaction. At first, they may try to dismiss your silence, pretending it does not matter. They may act indifferent, detached, or even relieved, but this is a defensive mask. As time passes, the quiet becomes impossible to ignore. Without your attention reinforcing their inflated self-image, they start feeling unimportant, unseen, and irrelevant. These sensations are intolerable, striking at their deepest fear of being ordinary, invisible, or unremarkable. While you use the silence to recover, grow stronger, and rebuild yourself, they experience the same silence as an emotional void that threatens their identity. Your nervous system begins to relax without the constant tension and unpredictability they brought. The fog lifts, you recognize your value and reclaim parts of yourself that were suppressed. Clarity emerges in the quiet while they experience chaos. The longer the silence continues, the sharper the contrast becomes. They may ruminate, replay conversations, imagine scenarios, or invent reasons for your absence. Uncertainty gnaws at them. They do not miss the relationship, they miss the reflection of themselves they once saw in your responses. While your silence heals, theirs destabilizes. You regain pieces of yourself. They feel parts of their constructed identity slipping. What is peaceful and necessary for you becomes threatening for them. This difference exposes the imbalance that existed all along, revealing that the quiet liberates you while slowly unraveling them internally. When the silence settles, a subtle shift occurs within you, often slow, confusing, yet strangely relieving. Your nervous system, conditioned to constant alertness during the relationship, finally gets a chance to stop bracing for emotional blows. Narcissistic relationships create chronic hypervigilance. You anticipate moods, reactions, and unpredictable emotional climates. Your body learns to expect tension, even in calm moments. Initially, the silence may feel strange. You might feel restless, agitated, or unsure. The lack of conflict may feel wrong. This response is not weakness, it is biology. Your body has been trained to survive in a state of tension. Gradually, however, clarity emerges. Your mind untangles from the chaos. You notice how your thoughts shift when not anticipating manipulation or outbursts. Your sleep improves. Moments of stillness appear, something rare for years. Your nervous system recalibrates. Danger has receded, healing begins, not dependent on permission, apology, or closure from them. You start reclaiming emotional bandwidth once consumed by their needs and crises. You rediscover the ability to think clearly, feel your own emotions without manipulation, and make decisions rooted in your values instead of constant caution.